At just 16, Manohara Odelia Pino married a high-profile Malaysian prince, stepping into what seemed like a life of glamour and privilege. But behind the glittering facade, her fairy tale quickly turned into a dark nightmare of control and abuse. According to American political commentator Jesse Waters, Manohara herself described her ordeal as worse than hell. In a shocking turn of events, she made a daring escape from a hotel in Singapore, triggering a media frenzy and sparking debates about royal power and women's rights. What truths were hidden behind her elegant exterior? And just how far was she willing to go to win back her freedom? This gripping story reveals the journey of a young girl who went from being a royal bride to a powerful symbol of courage and resilience. In the dim, cramped space of a hotel lift in Singapore, a daring escape was in motion, one that would capture the attention of two nations and dominate headlines across the globe. 16-year-old model Manohara Odelia Pino found herself standing eye to eye with her husband, a Malaysian prince, as his bodyguards stood ready to block her way. Just moments before, she and her mother had hatched a bold plan, a last-ditch effort to escape the nightmare her whirlwind marriage had become. It was a moment of courage, desperation, and determination to reclaim her freedom. Manohara knew the lift's every move was being caught on CCTV, a small but crucial advantage against the overwhelming power of royal authority. As the lift climbed higher, the tension became unbearable. She could feel the intimidating presence of the bodyguards surrounding her, their silence louder than words. But this was it, her one chance to break free. Summoning her courage, she pressed the emergency alarm, shattering the tense silence with a piercing wail that summoned security to the scene. When the doors slid open on the third floor, her mother, Daisy Fajarina, was there, flanked by Singaporean police, ready for whatever was about to unfold. What had begun as a fairy tale romance between a young Indonesian-American model and a Malaysian prince ended in a dramatic showdown, a moment that would forever redefine her story. Manohara's story wasn't just another tabloid-worthy celebrity scandal, it struck a deep chord in Indonesia. She became a symbol of resilience and bravery, celebrated as a national heroine and an inspiration for young women. To many, she was a powerful voice against domestic abuse, shining a light on an issue often hidden in silence. In Malaysia, however, her dramatic escape sent shockwaves through the royal image. The incident peeled back the polished veneer of monarchy, forcing uncomfortable attention on allegations that had long been suppressed or overlooked. Here's a bit of backstory. At just 16, Manohara was swept off her feet by a Malaysian prince, catapulting her into a life most could only dream of. With her beauty and charm already making waves in Indonesia's modeling scene, it seemed like she was destined for a life of glamour and luxury. But the dream quickly soured. Within a year, what had started as a fairy tale unraveled into something far darker. Allegations of emotional manipulation, strict control, and even physical abuse began to surface, shattering the illusion of her perfect marriage. What once seemed like a charmed life became a gilded prison. Manohara described a life of constant surveillance and isolation, where every move was controlled and her freedom was stripped away. Attempts to cry for help were silenced, and for months her mother was cut off from any contact with her. By her own account, her marriage had turned her life into a waking nightmare, one she believed she'd never escape from. That is until fate intervened in Singapore. Manohara Odelia Pino wasn't your average teenager. Born to an Indonesian mother and an American father, her unique blend of cultures made her stand out. In Indonesia, her exotic beauty and grace quickly propelled her into modeling stardom. Admirers called her a thief of hearts, captivated by her striking features and magnetic presence. She was a rising star with the world at her feet, until her glamorous life took a devastating turn. By the age of 16, Manohara was already a rising star in Indonesia, adored by many for her appearances on magazine covers and at fashion events. She had become a young icon, admired for her beauty and elegance. But behind the spotlight, no one could have predicted the dramatic turn her life was about to take. It all began when she crossed paths with Tengku Muhammad Fakhri, a Malaysian prince from Kelantan's royal family, during a public event. The Kelantan royal family is one of Malaysia's most prestigious, steeped in history and cultural significance. Royals in Kelantan hold immense social status, with every aspect of their public and private lives closely watched and meticulously maintained. For Manohara, meeting the prince seemed like the start of a fairy tale, one that would soon take a very dark turn. In the world of privilege and tradition, Tengku Fakhri was a prominent figure. When the prince showed interest in Manohara, it felt like a dream come true. To her family, it seemed like a fairy tale unfolding, their beautiful daughter capturing the attention of a royal suitor. Manohara first met the prince at just 14, and his fascination with her quickly became apparent. Over the next 2 years, he impressed her family with grand gestures, showering them with gifts and attention. Her mother, Daisy Faharina, initially found his interest flattering, charmed by the idea of her daughter marrying into royalty. By the time Manohara was 16, she was swept up in a whirlwind romance that seemed like a dream straight out of a storybook. A rising young model, she was about to step into the role of a Malaysian prince's bride. The wedding was a lavish affair, filled with opulence and celebration, marking her official entry into Kelantan's royal family. For a brief moment, her life appeared to be a real-life fairy tale. The Indonesian media celebrated her as a modern-day princess, a symbol of beauty, charm, and good fortune. Everything seemed perfect, but behind the grandeur of royal walls, Manohara's life quickly unraveled into a nightmare. What started as a fairy tale took a dark and sinister turn. She claimed that Tengku Fakhri's behavior changed drastically once she entered his world. Cut off from her family and friends, Manohara found herself living a tightly controlled life. Every move she made was monitored, and whispers of emotional abuse and strict restrictions began to emerge. Her mother, once a constant presence, suddenly couldn't reach her, and the lively, radiant smile Manohara was known for started to disappear. The prince, who had seemed so charming in public, allegedly revealed a much darker side in private. Rumors swirled that she was living in constant fear, trapped in what had become a gilded cage with no way out. Although the royal family denied these allegations, the Indonesian public was outraged. To them, Manohara was more than a young model. She was their modern-day Princess Diana, a beloved figure who couldn't possibly deserve such suffering. They rallied behind her, shocked by the idea that their cherished icon might be enduring such unimaginable hardships. What began as a dream marriage to Tengku Muhammad Fakhri of the Kelantan royal family had transformed into a chilling nightmare, leaving Manohara fighting to reclaim her freedom and identity. At just 16, Manohara was already used to the spotlight, but marrying into Malaysian royalty brought a whole new level of attention and pressure that would change her life forever. While the media in Indonesia and Malaysia were quick to celebrate the glamour of her royal status, it didn't take long for the first signs of trouble to appear. Manohara claimed that her husband, the Malaysian prince, adopted a controlling attitude, wanting to dominate every aspect of her life. Isolation became her new normal, and she was cut off from loved ones who might have been able to help. What had seemed like a fairy tale marriage quickly descended into a nightmare, filled with fear and distress. Allegations of emotional and physical abuse began to surface as Manohara described living in a world where her independence and identity were slowly stripped away. Each day she faced tighter control, with her husband's jealousy leading to constant surveillance of her actions and communications. Back in Indonesia, rumors about Manohara's ordeal began to spread, and what had once been a fascination with her fairy tale marriage quickly turned into concern and outrage. Indonesians, who had watched her grow from a promising young model into a national icon, felt a deep sense of protectiveness over her. Her story struck a chord across the country, sparking protests and a widespread call for justice. The Indonesian media, already enchanted by Manohara's rise as a beauty icon, now turned her story into a powerful human interest narrative. News channels couldn't get enough of the updates. Newspapers splashed her story across their front pages, and social media was flooded with messages demanding her release and safe return to Indonesia. The nation was united in its support for her, with every new development sparking more outcry and calls for justice. Daisy Farina, Manohara's mother, found herself in an agonizing situation as she watched her daughter's once promising life spiral into a nightmare. As the months passed, Daisy's close bond with Manohara began to unravel. Calls went unanswered, and messages were ignored. What had started as excitement about her daughter's marriage to royalty soon turned into growing anxiety and then desperate concern. Daisy had no idea what was happening behind the royal walls of Kelantan, but her motherly instincts were screaming that something was horribly wrong. When she finally managed to speak with Manohara after months of silence, her worst fears were confirmed. In a quiet, controlled voice, Manohara hinted at the physical and emotional abuse she was enduring, making it clear that her life with the Malaysian prince was nothing like the fairy tale the public believed. Daisy was horrified. Her daughter's marriage, which she had once thought would be a dream, had turned into a nightmare. Refusing to sit idly by, Daisy decided to take bold action. She went public with her concerns, making heartfelt appeals through Indonesian media. Her voice, full of worry for her young daughter, painted a picture of a girl trapped in a life of royalty, but isolated and suffering. Daisy's efforts were both driven by love and strategy. She knew that public attention could be a powerful tool to bring international focus to Manohara's plight. She appeared on television and in newspapers, describing her daughter's nightmare marriage with the prince. With headlines that spoke of mistreatment and abuse, the media amplified her voice, broadcasting Manohara's story across Indonesia. Daisy's pleas resonated with the public, who felt a mixture of sympathy and outrage. The media blitz surrounding Manohara's plight did not stop in Indonesia. Daisy Farina, determined to save her daughter, sought support from international agencies and governments, hoping they might intervene on Manohara's behalf. She reached out to Indonesian authorities, urging them to act, and called on the American embassy, given Manohara's American ties. However, navigating the complex diplomatic and legal channels between Indonesia and Malaysia proved to be an enormous challenge. The political complexities of a dispute involving a Malaysian prince, combined with cultural sensitivities surrounding royal matters, made it difficult to secure concrete support from government officials in Indonesia. While the public rallied around Daisy, officials were cautious, mindful of the potential diplomatic fallout. In Malaysia, the situation was even more challenging. Royal privilege and traditions held immense weight in society, and speaking out against a prince was a risky proposition. Some Malaysians, either loyal to the monarchy or fearful of opposing it, received Daisy's story with skepticism. This cultural divide further complicated Daisy's efforts, but as a mother, she remained undeterred. Legal hurdles, diplomatic red tape, and the potential dangers of confronting royal power did little to shake her resolve. Her sole focus was clear: to bring her daughter home safely. As the situation surrounding Manohara escalated, the Canton Palace recognized the urgent need for intervention. This led to a call for help to Datuk Kedar Shah Sulaiman Ninam Shah, a respected figure known for his diplomatic skills and connections within Malaysia's royal circles. He was tasked with the delicate mission of mediating the growing tensions surrounding Manohara's situation. Kedar Shah's journey began with a strong determination to understand both sides of the story. Upon his arrival in Kuala Lumpur, he sought a meeting with Prince Tenu Fakhri to discuss the escalating crisis. The initial discussions with the prince were cordial, but ultimately unproductive, as Tenu Fakhri was unwilling to acknowledge any wrongdoing. Despite the tension, Kedar Shah remained focused on his goal: to meet Manohara and hear her perspective. However, he quickly realized that his mission would not be straightforward. The atmosphere surrounding the royal family was shrouded in secrecy and control, making it extremely difficult for anyone to approach Manohara directly. As days passed, Kedar Shah encountered significant setbacks in his attempts to arrange a meeting with the young model. He learned that Manohara was being kept in a hotel in Singapore, closely monitored by the prince's entourage. The isolation was palpable, and any attempt to reach her would require a carefully calculated strategic approach. Undeterred, Kedar Shah decided to employ covert tactics, fully aware that time was of the essence. He arranged a meeting with Manohara's mother, Daisy Farina, in Jakarta, establishing a crucial line of communication between them. As the situation reached a critical point, a tense meeting in Singapore became the turning point where Kedar Shah finally had the opportunity to see Manohara in person. The stakes were high, and he knew that any misstep could jeopardize her chance of escape. During their initial encounter at a restaurant, Kedar Shah engaged in casual conversation with both Manohara and Tenu Fakhri. As the young model appeared visibly uncomfortable, Kedar Shah kept a vigilant eye out for the prearranged signal they had established. In a brief moment filled with tension, Manohara grasped Kedar Shah's hand with a firm yet anxious grip, scratching her fingernail against his palm. This subtle gesture was a clear cry for help, and Kedar Shah's heart raced as he sensed her distress. The weight of her silent plea resonated deeply with him, solidifying his resolve to orchestrate her escape without raising suspicion. Understanding the gravity of her situation, Kedar Shah quickly shifted his focus to executing the escape plan. He knew that Manohara's husband and his bodyguards would be closely monitoring her every move, so the plan would require timing and precision. Discreetly, Kedar Shah communicated with Daisy and other involved parties, ensuring they were prepared to act swiftly. The plan hinged on creating an opportunity for Manohara to slip away unnoticed, luring the entourage to a different location, leaving her vulnerable to make a break for freedom. As the day of the planned escape approached, the tension mounted. Kedar Shah remained vigilant, ready to act as a mediator between Manohara and the authorities. His extensive experience in dealing with royal affairs equipped him with the necessary skills to navigate this treacherous landscape. He understood the complexities of handling the prince's royal status, as well as the legal ramifications that could arise from Manohara's desire to escape. The escape in Singapore reached a critical moment. Every detail had been meticulously planned, and after weeks of mounting tension and uncertainty, the stage was set for a daring bid for freedom. The 16-year-old model, whose life had transformed into a nightmare, was desperate to reclaim her autonomy and return home to Jakarta, where her mother, Daisy Farina, awaited her. The escape plan involved intricate coordination between Daisy, Datuk Kedar Shah, and local authorities in Singapore. Prior to the operation, Kedar Shah had secured a room in a discreet hotel where the final stages of the plan could unfold safely. Daisy had been instrumental in laying the groundwork, utilizing her connections to ensure everything was in place for Manohara's getaway. The urgency of the situation heightened as the prince's entourage remained oblivious to the impending operation. Days of covert communication had led to this moment, where all parties were ready to act swiftly. On the evening of May 30th, the tension in the air was palpable as the escape plan commenced. Manohara and her husband were scheduled to leave the hotel to meet with family members. As they stepped into the lift, Manohara's heart raced. She knew this was her moment. Kedar Shah was strategically positioned on the first floor, waiting for the signal that would set the plan in motion. As the lift ascended, the atmosphere grew tense, and Manohara felt the weight of her situation pressing down on her. At that critical moment, the lift halted unexpectedly on the third floor, where Tenu Fakhri's entourage had a private access point. Immediately, Manohara's bodyguards moved to usher her toward the exit. Amidst the chaos, she boldly declared that the closed-circuit television, CCTV, in the lift was recording their actions, hoping to instill fear in her captors. This bold statement momentarily stunned the bodyguards, who hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. Seizing the opportunity, Manohara pressed the emergency alarm button, sending an urgent signal to hotel security and Kedar Shah, who was waiting just below. The shrill sound echoed through the hotel, breaking the tension and alerting the authorities. As hotel staff rushed to respond to the alarm, Kedar Shah quickly informed the police, who were on standby. The lift doors opened, revealing a tense standoff. Tenu Fakhri was attempting to pull Manohara out, insisting that she was his wife and therefore under his control. However, the police intervened immediately. Their presence was authoritative and reassuring, signaling that the tide had turned in Manohara's favor. In Singapore, the law was clear. Everyone had the right to choose, and one officer reminded Tenu Fakhri of this, asserting that the law protected Manohara's autonomy. After a heated exchange, the prince finally relented, allowing the police to escort Manohara away from the turmoil. As she was led to safety, her heart raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was the moment she had longed for, the freedom from a life that had turned into a nightmare. Upon reuniting with her mother, the emotional weight of their separation was palpable. Manohara expressed her desire to press charges against Tenu Fakhri. But Kedar Shah explained that doing so would require her to remain in Singapore until the court was in session, which could delay her return to Jakarta. After a lengthy discussion, Manohara ultimately chose to leave for Jakarta with her mother. With a police escort, they hurried to Changi Airport, and as they reached the airport, a sense of relief washed over them. They were finally free. Together, they boarded their flight to Jakarta, ready to reclaim their lives and start anew, leaving behind the shadows of a harrowing chapter, no longer concerned with the hopes of either party working on their marriage. According to sources close to the royalty, the prince remains deeply affected by the situation. He reportedly feels a sense of sadness as he truly loved Manohara, but perhaps believes that she was simply too young and was influenced by her mother's actions. As for Manohara, she plans to take time out to heal. According to her, she needs to purge the prince from her life and focus on her own well-being before considering any future relationships or commitments. The saga of Manohara. Odelia Pino's escape from her marriage to Malaysian Prince Tenu Muhammad Fakhri sparked a media frenzy and polarized public reactions across Indonesia and Malaysia. As a 16-year-old model whose life had turned into a nightmare, Manohara became the focal point of a dramatic narrative that deeply resonated with the public, evoking both sympathy and outrage. In Indonesia, the media largely sided with Manohara, portraying her as a tragic heroine. Outlets emphasized her youth and vulnerability, contrasting her glamorous life as a model with the harrowing experience of being a young bride to a Malaysian prince. Many saw her plight as symbolic of the broader struggles women face in similar circumstances, framing her story as a fight for women's rights and autonomy. In contrast, Malaysian media tended to dismiss Manohara's claims, often focusing on the perspective of the Canton royal family. Reports downplayed allegations of abuse and isolation, framing the situation as a misunderstanding rather than a case of domestic violence. Some outlets even painted Manohara in a negative light, questioning her character and motives. Cultural expectations in Malaysia, where wives are traditionally expected to be dutiful and compliant, contributed to the public's skepticism. Many Malaysians viewed Manohara's allegations with doubt, believing she should have behaved more graciously as a member of the royal family. This cultural framework made it difficult for the public to empathize with her situation, leading to a sense of defensiveness towards the royal family. Manohara's life after her escape from her tumultuous marriage to Malaysian Prince Tenu Muhammad Fakhri became a story of resilience and transformation. The media in Indonesia embraced her, elevating her to the status of a tragic heroine. With her newfound visibility, Manohara became a popular television personality, frequently appearing on talk shows and public forums. Through these appearances, she shared her painful experiences, raising awareness about women's rights and domestic abuse, positioning herself as a voice for those who felt voiceless. Her advocacy work resonated deeply with the public, and she turned her suffering into a platform to inspire others in similar situations to seek help. However, the road to freedom was not without its challenges. Manohara faced legal battles, including a defamation lawsuit filed by the prince and his family, leading to a $1.8 million judgment in favor of Fakhri. Despite this, Manohara vowed to never pay the prince a penny and even challenged him to file a lawsuit in Jakarta, where she believed he would not receive the same favorable treatment. In addition to legal battles, Manohara filed a police report for alleged domestic violence, threatening that Fakhri would be arrested if he ever set foot in Indonesia. As she focused on healing from her past, she also began making plans to launch her own cosmetic line and continued her television appearances. While she remains open to the possibility of a romantic relationship, she is not in a rush, prioritizing her personal growth and healing. This whirlwind romance turned sour has certainly captured the public's attention, with many wondering if there were details that remained hidden in the shadows. What are your thoughts on this dramatic turn of events? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section below.